To feel,
and it looks like my image is frozen, but I'll say the power anyway.
I will fix that in a moment. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of MMA Power Hour. We've got some updating to do here over the next little while. I decided to slack off this week with updating stuff on the screen, and my camera is having some issues. We're going to get all of this fixed, but you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got a great episode ahead of us here, a couple amazing guests. One of them that we had hoped to schedule, that some of you were hoping for, unfortunately is not going to be able to make it because he had UFC call him up and say, we've got fight week stuff for you tonight.
Yep.
And he wasn't planning on it. So,
yep.
But we still have two great guests for you, and this is going to be a great episode. We promise that. I promise that. This episode is brought to you by Lith Token. Go to lithtoken.io. It's LITH token.io. Check it out. It's all about sustainability and setting up an amazing consumer marketplace. Think Amazon, but with sustainability on the back end and sustainability practices being built up. Like I said, it's lithtoken.io. Awesome project I'm personally involved with, and definitely doing everything we can to keep MMA Power Hour going, and it definitely helps.
Absolutely, and there's a great one that IO is a lot better than IOU. You don't want to have to be writing out IOUs to too many people. So IO, that's the way to go. Lith Token IO. And lithium is a great battery, so if you're using the lithium batteries, you're great. If you're having to take lithium, God bless you, keep taking your medicine. Don't decide that you don't need it. A very unfortunate, serious subject, but you know, all respect, you know, so a lot of good Lith stuff going here. And we have my great producer and co-host, Dr. Adam Lith Token Roorda, over here. Is that a good nickname there for a little while? Right on. And so we're going to be doing a great show talking about this coming up huge UFC International Fight Week, and the great fights on the card with two amazing title fights. Two amazing title fights, or one? Two amazing title fights, yes. And it's definitely got that international flavor with the Australian against the American in the men's featherweight title fight, and the Russian against the American in the women's flyweight title fight, among other great fights and a couple of great guests. We may even have a surprise guest or two if possible. We had coordinated with Chris Dawkins, but he is fighting Saturday. He's been on the show before and he wanted to make it tonight, but he just found out here as he got into Vegas that they immediately needed him for some mandatory media obligations there, and if he can finish early, he said he will jump on here. If he can't, then we'll definitely have him again soon, and really good guy. Anyway, so we are not ready for anything except for to do something that people love, which is breaking down the fights. Let me do a quick recap of this past week. Anthony Lionheart Smith coming up big with the win in the main event against Ryan Spann. Big respect to Lionheart, reinventing himself here at the age of 35 or so, or 34, and is a very, very tough guy. We also had a great win from a guest of ours from 7 months ago, Hannah Goldie, coming up big as a slight underdog against Emily Whitmire. We also saw some other interesting fights. Nathan Madness coming up ahead after losing most of the fight, and then finally coming up with a win at the end against Tony Gravely. Yuan Kutalaba came up big, looking really good in a fight against Devin Clark. Kutalaba's looking amazing. Not only that, but by him looking so great in the last couple of fights, how great does that make Magomed Ankalaev, who beat him in the first round twice. Looking at these guys from Dagestan, man, I mean, if you really think about it, and I know this is something Habib would love to see, Habib Nurmagomedov, is we could technically see like 4 UFC titles being held by Dagestani fighters. We're looking at 145 Zabit Magomed Sharapov, a legit threat, top 5 right now at featherweight. We're looking at lightweight. Islam Makhachev, even more than a legit threat, but a huge threat. At 155, we're looking at Hamzat Chimaev, the Dagestan, I think he's Dagestani, who was raised in Sweden, but I do believe was from Dagestan or neighboring country, is very likely a title contender at either 170 or 185. And then Megamed Ankalaev at 205. How crazy is that? So that's what, technically four UFC titles could be held by Dagestanis. Although I think you maybe have to eliminate Chimaev because he does represent Sweden, but still from that background and still with that skill set. So,
man,
that would be crazy. I know Habib
yeah, it definitely would be crazy. And I apologize, everybody. I'm trying to get Colin back up here, but my camera does not seem to want to work for me.
It's unfortunate, yeah, but we do have Dr. Adam Roorda, and you can look at him and consider me the invisible man for a minute.
I mean, that's what you're going to be the whole time, because I can't sit here and do this every 30 seconds. I just can't.
Yep.
So, bear with me, everybody, boys and girls. Keep talking, Colin.
Yes, you got it.
You guys get to stare at an empty screen, but we will have Colin there chatting.
Exactly. Here I am. You can hear my voice. You can feel the power in the midnight hour. You can feel my power. What was that, a song from Madonna in the 80s, I think? I don't know what it was. Anyway, I can feel your power. Who the hell knows what the reality to that is. Hopefully I have some power left in these old bones. Anyway, so also on that card, what else did we have? Raquel Pennington coming up big in an important top 10 matchup between she and Pani Kianzad. Congratulations to Raquel Pennington. Hard fought fight. It was an interesting fight, and Raquel did look like she deserved the victory there, and she got it. And I think a couple other fights that are escaping me at the moment, but definitely some good stuff went on at the fight night in the Apex Now UFC 266. So much amazing stuff going on. The main event of the evening being the UFC Men's Featherweight Championship of the World. Alexander Volkanovski against Brian Ortega. Wow, what a fight. You guys got to know them a lot better if you watched this season of The Ultimate Fighter, and they are both characters. Brian T-City Ortega, the Arizonan, I believe, who spent a lot of time in Los Angeles as well, but I believe Arizona is where he calls home mostly. And Alexander Volkanovski, the Aussie. Gotta love the Aussies. And that's going to be a hell of a fight. The fight right below that is going to be Valentina Shevchenko. Looking good here I am. Hey, what's up? It's going to be Valentina Shevchenko against Lauren Murphy. And then the rest of the card has some amazing fights that we will discuss. So let's take a look at the women's fight, because it looks like the way things are unfolding, this is going to be an all women's MMA show. And women's MMA has been around for a good while, but not really in the super mainstream, and it's only been in the UFC for 10 years. I believe it was 2011 that Ronda Rousey and Liz Carmouche did make it into the UFC, and I think that might have been the main. No, that couldn't have been the main event. No, I believe it. Maybe it was, but if it wasn't the main event, it was very high up on the card. And I think that because Ronda Rousey had the Strikeforce title, Dana White honored that and made her the official women's UFC Bantamweight champion. That was kind of a weird call. I'd like to see what you think about that, Adam. I think that's kind of unprecedented. No, scratch that. He did the same thing with Jose Aldo. The only difference is that Jose Aldo was the featherweight champ in the Zuffa-owned WEC. And so when they started the 145 title, Jose Aldo had already beaten several people in the WEC and was the dominant champion. And I think no one questioned it when Dana says, okay, we now are getting rid of the WEC and we're bringing in men's featherweight into the UFC, and the champion, rightfully so, is Jose Aldo. No one argued that, but to say that, well, Strikeforce, an organization we have nothing to do with here, we're going to honor their champion, Ronda Rousey, and make her our champion. Some people were kind of scratching their head at that, saying, why would he do that? Maybe he knew she was marketable and she was talented, but a lot of people did kind of question that, saying, why the hell would that fight with Liz Carmouche not have been for the inaugural women's bantamweight championship, and whoever won it would be the first champion? Kind of an interesting thing looking back on it,
yeah, it's really interesting looking back on it. I mean, there's been a lot of really interesting things that have happened with that, between Strikeforce and UFC, when things were really just starting to come together. A lot of really confusing aspects. In fact, we touched on it last week. So, I mean, just looking back on it, there's just a lot of weird stuff that's really happened. It is what it is.
Yeah. So
now, looking back on it makes me feel confident, and I've said it before, makes me feel confident that we will see unification at some point in the next couple years between organizations. I know Dana says it is not happening.
Right. So UFC, it might not, although that'd be amazing. But you could almost see it between, like, maybe PFL and Bellator, or one championship and PFL or Bellator. And there's
another organization that just started up in not in Asia, was it? Another one that started up with similar formatting to PFL, but they're stepping it up even one level above that with seasons and how they actually coordinate the actual schedules.
Interesting. I had not heard of that, but
I saw it. I'll have to look it up, not right now, but next week we'll talk about it, because that's a good one.
Yeah, it sounds like a good organization. So you know what? If Ronda Rousey was actually made the inaugural champion, then the first person to actually win the UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship would have been Holly Holm when she knocked out Ronda. So I wonder if there's a footnote showing that, because Ronda indeed was the very first women's UFC Bantamweight champion, but she didn't win that.
Right.
I mean, I guess they could say, since each fight she won after that was a defense of her title. But still, I think if you really look at it, I would hope there's a footnote saying Holly Holm is the very first person to win the women's UFC Bantamweight Championship.
Right.
Right?
I mean, I could see that and that making sense. But listen, Colin, there's so many greats out there that kind of get screwed over in the process. And I just want to bring one up. We've got one of the greatest fighters of all time that just won. He definitely deserved it. But 50 fights.
Yeah, Anthony Smith.
Yeah, Anthony Smith is. I don't know if he's going to be remembered the way that he deserves.
I mean, it's interesting. Anthony Smith at one point was able to make 185 when he was in his 20s. And he was a really tall 185, 6'4". He probably walked in at like 215 or 220.
Right.
So he was tall, he was big. And for the last 4 or 5 fights, I think, he could make 185. He was just killing it. I mean, the guy could have probably owned 85. In fact, if he had been able to stay at 85 when Israel Adesanya came around and Robert Whittaker and those guys, they would have been hard-pressed to beat Lionheart. In fact, looking at him and Izzy would have been looking eye to eye at 6'4". And that would have been a hell of a fight, because Lionheart would have been the thicker man. But nevertheless, in the late 20s, early 30s, Lionheart had to move on to 205. And he's a tall guy at 205, but he's not a big guy at 205. And he recently came up against 2 guys who were genuinely big for the weight division.
Right.
Glover Teixeira and Alexander Rakic, and they beat the brakes off of him. And he did come back since then, and he's on a good tear now. Having an amazing win over Jimmy Crute, and a great win before that over Devin Clark, and then a really good win here over Ryan Spann. So I think he'll be remembered as a great warrior. What he does from here, though, I think is going to be a big part of that. He's confident that he can challenge again for a 205 title. There's talk about him and Rakic running it back, which would be interesting because he did say apparently that he was a little bit compromised somehow in that Rakic fight. So
I mean,
you never know. Yeah,
you
he's made adjustments
lose.
since then too. He said he's made big adjustments. He gave credit to Rakic for being a better fighter now. They said after that loss, he did make some serious adjustments in his game.
Well, I mean, you have to. You lose, you learn, right? That's the name of the game in fighting. You lose and you learn, and you move on, and you start getting wins. If you don't learn, you're just gonna repeat everything.
Without a doubt.
You know, and I'm afraid we're seeing that out of Conor McGregor nowadays, which is unfortunate. You know, I don't think he's learning anymore.
No.
I think he has by far past his prime.
Which is crazy because the man's just 32 years old, I think.
Yeah, now with a leg break like the one he had, it's going to be insane. Now he's claiming that he's already better, and doctors are like, no.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, it's, speaking about Lionheart's legacy, what's Conor's legacy going to be? I mean, it's kind of like if he would have stopped.
Money.
Yeah, it is going to be money. If he would have stopped after he lost to Khabib and not had the second and third fight with Dustin Poirier, they would have said, hey, he was the second best guy out there to Khabib Nurmagomedov. And I think his legacy would have been solid. They would have said...
And he didn't want that. So, he's going to try to come back, and I think that's a horrible mistake. I don't think he stands a chance against Poirier for another match.
No.
I think that's going to be an overhyped fight. I think it's going to end quickly again.
Right.
Not in a leg break, but I think it's going to end quickly.
Yeah.
Poirier is a beast.
He really is. He really is. And then a Nate Diaz fight seems just like it would be weird. But you know what the weird thing is, Adam? Everyone loves the Diaz brothers, and especially lately, for the last several years, Nate. Even though Nate cannot beat guys in the top 5 in either the lightweight or welterweight division. Better chance at lightweight, but it's getting harder for him to make lightweight in his mid-30s. So he's in this weird position. It's hard. You're hard pressed to even put Nate Diaz in the top 10. But yet he's marketable. He's tough. He's rugged. In that fight against Leon Edwards, I'll tell you, it started to get scary when he tagged Leon in that last round. Leon did win that fight clearly, but he actually looked like a really top guy against Leon, well, to an extent. And so the funny thing is this: he's in his mid-30s, he's past his prime, he's too heavy, I think, to be able to make 55 comfortably. He'd be really drained at 55. At 70, he's tall but just a skinny guy. And I just think that if Conor wants to fight him, what does it prove? I mean, if he beats Nate, I think it'll revive his career. But I think a lot of the really big
not enough,
right?
Yeah,
because they'll say, what is that? He beat a guy who is not going to beat anybody in the top 5 or probably in the top 10.
It doesn't do anything for his career at the end of the day. I mean,
Probably
more
not.
money.
It would be more. It would be more money, and then some people, I think, would be fooled to believe that he's back. Off of that.
Yeah, and it's definitely a money fight, but I wouldn't. Man, that's all Conor's about, anyways, anymore. So
it really is, and he's got so much of it, but I guess he wants more. That's
more power to him. I have respect to him and Mayweather both for kind of playing the same game, both heels to a lot of people. Mayweather's more of the nice guy that's the heel no matter what. I think he's kind of, there's politics involved there. But, McGregor plays the heel and makes money doing it. So let him keep doing it. I don't really have a problem with it unless he breaks his leg again. Then it's like, dude, you got to stop.
Yeah.
You're probably going to end up with an amputation.
Right, or in a wheelchair.
Yeah, if that leg breaks again, if he comes back too soon, that's what's going to happen. He's going to be looking at those clean breaks like that.
Yeah, really bad.
You're lucky if it doesn't turn into an amputation.
Yeah, really bad. Anyway, speaking about Diaz brothers, the older Diaz, Nick is back. I'll tell you this, Adam. This is an interesting thing, and I know you've been following it a lot the last few years. You followed it a lot in the early 2000s, but you did have a little bit of a dark period where you were focusing on other stuff. And so let me fill you in. Up until around 2013, everything was Nick Diaz. Nate was the little brother who was making chump change in fights that no one cared about. Everything was Nick. In fact, everyone was saying, I hope Nick Diaz is treating his brother to dinner or at least paying rent, because Nate is making nothing. Nate is making $10,000 to show and $10,000 to win, and Nick is making six-figure paydays. That started to change as soon as Nate was able to talk himself into the Conor fight. And in all honesty, probably nobody was happier than his big brother, because when he talked himself into that fight and won that first fight against Conor, all of a sudden his value went up from down here all the way to the top, exponentially. Instead of him making $10,000, he's making six figures like Nick. And then Nick kind of is fading back into obscurity with like a 4 or 5 year suspension for weed, which was ridiculous, but it was the rule at the time. And so now Nick is back. Nick is, I think, 2 years older than Nate. So Nick is, I think, 38 years old now. He's fighting in his division, 170, even though he's a big 170. He's had a couple fights at 85, but he's fighting Robbie Lawler, a man that he had a great fight with in 2005, I believe, 16 years ago, when they were both in their early 20s. And now they're in their late 30s. Nick has fought like 3 times.
I mean, they're fighting at 185, so this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. Okay, so it's an interesting fight because Nick has only had like 3 fights or 4 fights in 10 years, literally. 4 fights in 10 years, 3 fights in 8 years, I think. No fights in the last 5 years. And so he's coming back without a lot of wear and tear on his joints, having rested a lot, but who the hell knows what he has left after 5 years off, being in his late 30s. Robbie Lawler has been around losing fight after fight after fight. And he's a great tough guy, but against the very best guys or the top 10, he can't win. But he doesn't embarrass himself, he just falls short. And we just, John, I appreciate you mentioning it, Adam.
Yeah, he jumped in, a little bit of a delay here, but
85, appreciate that, John. Yeah. So who wins a fight? First of all, it's a gambler's nightmare. Anyone that says that go ahead and find value in either of those guys, good luck with that. That is, you don't want to bet a fight with one over the hill guy who hasn't fought in 5 years and has fought 4 times in 10 years. Against another over-the-hill guy who's lost 4 of his last 5 fights. No way to know. Absolutely no way to know who wins that fight. The odds have got to be close. I'd be curious to kind of see if you wanted to look at the best fight odds up there. But I mean, it should be even money, wouldn't you think, Adam? Or would you think the odds makers are going to lean to one or the other?
I'm going to say even money on this one. It's too far out, too far gone. I mean, maybe... Yeah. Maybe they're giving it to Lawler.
Isn't it on that card? No, it's on. I think it's before that card. It's before that card because I think it's the card that Matthew Stemmelsberger.
I was just looking at it and I have a brain fart right now. But...
No problem. Before that, Matthew Stemmelsberger is going to be on the card with them. So there it is. That's the card. Okay, let's see what the odds makers have it.
There it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Close to even.
Almost exactly even. Yeah, slight favorite on a couple of betting sites to Robbie Lawler.
And that's where I would give it. It's.
Because he's been fighting. He's the one that's been fighting.
He's the one that's been fighting more consistently. Nick's been back. But, let's really look at this fight and just break it down in the sense that Lawler has a lot less ring rust. He is not a smoker, as far as I know. He's not smoking marijuana. Nope. I think that does impact performance. I think at a certain age, it actually helps. And I think at a later in age, as you get older, it actually impacts it negatively. Right. I'm a huge fan of cannabis, actually, but I do think it impacts your performance negatively as you age. Your lungs will be impacted drastically. So
that makes sense.
I do see it as a performance enhancer, which I always understood how it was really kind of a negative thing in the sport by USADA and everybody else. But at the same time, it has detriments for the older people that are still fighting or now are kind of, there's this huge revival for bringing back the OGs. I agree with them opening up the floor right now. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Nick Diaz, I mean, it's so unfortunate he had that long suspension because he was a really good fighter. Yes, it did turn out that ground fighting was kind of his kryptonite, although he did actually lose a fight to Carlos Condit in Carlos Condit's prime, when Carlo kind of stuck and moved and did outpoint him. But very, very tough guy. I mean, when the Diaz brothers retire, excuse me, it's going to be hard to recreate them. And the reason why, Adam, is both guys have chins of iron. Both brothers look like the average guy could come up and hit them with a baseball bat, and it wouldn't knock them off their feet even. They're both chins of iron. They have that confidence, so they can step in the fire. They're long, lanky guys. They're not fast twitch muscle guys. So they don't have this amazing explosive power with their punches, but they're so accurate. They just touch you so much, and they're willing to step in the fire so much, because they'll take your fire and your heat and your smoke and then just keep on throwing back. They're both very good black belts in jiu-jitsu. They've got pretty good takedown defense, and they just love fighting. And so they're like two prototype warriors that I think we'll see down the line. And I think some fighters already are kind of like trying to have that Diaz brothers style. But you've just got to have that iron chin and that jiu-jitsu and that crazy tough. I mean, they're real guys. They're real dudes. Like Jorge Masvidal always said, when he and Nate Diaz fought, it was two, real gangsters, real guys from the streets who were not in this for a joke, who don't look at this as an athletic competition, but who are out there to just beat the crap out of their opponent. And and so big respect to the Diaz brothers, interesting dudes and with a lot of talent. But yeah, Nick, it will be interesting to see what Nick does, and then, because Nick always believed in how dangerous fighting was, and he did not want to fight when he's not being paid fairly. And so on this comeback fight, without a lot of people demanding him come back, he's maybe making somewhat of a compromise as far as what he receives. But if he does beat Robbie Lawler, he's going to go back again to demanding big money.
Yeah, well, and he deserves it at some point, and I think that just the fact that he's back, Dana probably has it in the back of his mind. Let's give him that shot. Let's do that. It's really, I think Dana feels pretty good about the marijuana and the way the UFC's open about it now.
Yes.
So I think looking back, he's kind of like, you know what? Maybe he does deserve his shot to come back and make his money. Man, this news for this fight came out via I have to agree with Cormier on the idea that we're now going to Substack and these free news outlets. Just do I even need to have a website anymore? Is that the case? Like, listen, Ariel's he was at the top with ESPN, and now he's doing something over at Substack and doing all of his news from there. Wow, that's really interesting. I have to agree with Daniel Cormier. Wow, how the pieces have fallen. I mean, it's
definitely interesting. Yeah, he went back to MMA Hour. It's interesting because he was around admittedly before us with the MMA Hour, but we've been around almost 5 years now, and MMA Hour was off the air for about 3 years. And for those 3 years, we were putting in our content all the time. There's no conflict because it's two completely different shows. But we've actually caught up a little bit with the MMA Power Hour, and we're completely legit. Ariel's an interesting dude, but yeah, he's got there it is, SB Nation MMA Hour, and it's very interesting. It's interesting to see. The news sources change. I mean, and there's Scott Burke. Is it Burke or Burke? What's happening? How you doing, Scott? Glad to have you back here. We appreciate you.
Always showing up.
Yeah. So all I know though is that there's a lot of shows out there, and some of them are good, some of them are not so good. We hope to think that ours is pretty good, but there's some other ones that are good as well. And Ariel's a unique dude, and we just think that MMA media is an important thing. There's still a lot of people who don't know who our athletes are. You ever talk to a friend, Adam, and you mention like a champion like Alexander Volkanovski or Valentina Shevchenko or someone in the
nobody knows who they are unless it's Connor.
Right. And that says that there needs to be a lot more promotion and publicity with these fighters. Here's one thing I will say. Some fighter managers are playing keep away with their athletes and not wanting them to really do any media unless it's ESPN, maybe Ariel, or Joe Rogan or some international media. And it's really unfortunate because that happening is giving so much less exposure than the fighters deserve. I'm not saying they need to have their high level, high ranked and fighters and top contenders and champions go do someone's Facebook Live with 10 people watching. No, you don't have to do that. But you know, overall, over the years, we've had over 1 million combined viewers, well over 1 million, you know, and we've had some shows where 30, 50, 60,000 people have watched, you know, and so, you know, we definitely feel like we would be a help and could do professional interviews with these fighters. Another thing that you guys may not know watching is that a lot of fighters on their way up, we've caught a lot of the great fighters on their way up when they were not quite in the top 10 or maybe just barely cracked it, and then all of a sudden they're unavailable, not on their desire but on their manager's wishes to only have them do certain shows. So it is a little bit frustrating.
It is really frustrating. There's a couple specific groups that do that, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of the day, I'm just sitting here looking at all these different fighters and the ones that want title shots, and then they are not getting them, and it's because they're not getting enough promotion. So yeah, I mean, listen, if the sport wants to grow, you have to be able to let your athletes just get out there and get exposed everywhere. They have to work while they're also not working.
Absolutely.
And it is a very difficult threshold that you have to cross. I mean, you talk to any NFL player or an NBA guy, they're practicing and they're dealing with media constantly. And yeah, their management right nowadays is like that, where they're going to pick and choose who they're interviewing with. But the setup is a little better for them, just because the press rooms allow a lot more people in.
Yes.
And it's crazy and insane.
Even boxing does. Quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt your flow.
Oh, boxing, they'll let anybody into an event.
Absolutely. Quick question. Are we set for the first guest with the organization? Because the organization's PR person wants to make sure we're feeling comfortable that she's ready. It's a 7 o'clock call time, but she wants to make sure that we're connected and we don't need anything more from them.
You know what? Give me a second.
Okay, and because if not, I want to let her know that we're not. If somehow that person hasn't accepted the Skype or anything like that. So while Adam is checking, we always want to make sure everything's done well. And we do have 2 really good guests from responsible sources, and we need to make sure we have the connect and everything's in place for the interview. You know, I know that a lot of people understand there's a lot to it. It's not just like these fighters are sitting around doing nothing for hours and then we just hit them on like a FaceTime and they answer. It's, you know, got to have a connection through Skype, have the users connected, have them accept a request, and then the call goes through and we're good. So they're wanting to
so I actually, Colin, I just saw right here, I sent the invite. I thought I did earlier, but I didn't. Okay. So let her know she needs to accept the invite, but I did find the profile, so should be good.
All right. Okay.
And that's my bad. So I'm trying to get all of this going, including figuring out that camera.
All right. No problem. No problem.
Oh man, this yeah, I must have a problem with this camera connection. I need to replace the wires or cables. Is what it is.
It is what it is. Why don't you give your opinion a little bit more on that main event at the top while I'm doing this real quick?
I mean, come on, it's Volkov versus Ortega. I think Volkov is going to take this. He is a favorite. I have to just agree with that sentiment all around. Listen, he's 22-1. He's on a streak from hell is what I'm gonna say. Yep. I mean, he's got 1 loss,
and that was in 2013. Crazy, he hasn't lost in 8 years.
I think this man is basically unbeatable.
He's a beast. You know what's interesting about this fight, Adam, is that Brian Ortega was good up until 2020, but since 2020 he's been like a killer. He lost that fight in 18. He looked amazing. He looked like Brian Ortega 2.0. in that dominant win over the Korean Zombie 2 years ago. And so he's got the height. He's going to be like 2 inches taller, if not 3 inches taller. What is the age? The Volkanovski, the champ, is 32. And how about T-City?
He's 30.
30. So he's 2 years younger. He's like 3 inches taller.
This is my tell-all. Listen, the Max Holloway loss in 2018, and Max has only improved. I mean, come on, we saw Max come
and then
out
Alexander beat him twice, although one of them, some people thought, the second one, some people thought Holloway beat Volk. But it's interesting. If we hadn't seen the amazing display of skill that T-City, Brian Ortega, put on against the Zombie last year, this would be like a 5-1
100%
situation. But because he looks so great there, and before you look at that, Adam, I'm going to say they should still have the champ minus 200, but I bet they don't. I bet it's closer than that. And I was right, it's closer than that. They have
close to
pretty close, minus 170, minus 180, and that's kind of what I thought. The odds makers feel that Volkanovski probably has the edge and maybe should win, but it's really close, not even 2-1.
I'm going to tell you this right now. What I'm doing is I'm throwing a parlay together with
Volkanovski.
Yep, Murphy.
And Murphy, the underdog.
Mm-hmm. And Yarzino.
And Rosenstruik. Wow.
Yep.
You got to stick in our boy Matthew Semmelsberger, though. Man, and he's fighting the DS student. Let's see what the odds on his fight have done. Wow. They're making it a crush for Semmelsberger.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I think so too. And you know what though?
For four pick parlay, yeah.
So on the Volkanovski fight, let me ask you this, Adam. You have the better wrestler. Volkanovski grew up in Australia, but he had good wrestling there. I'm not going to say he's like a D1 level wrestler, but he's not far away. His wrestling is good. He's a short guy. He's very quick. He's got good hands. His hands are very good. His arms are short, but he packs a wallop and he's fast with his punches. No one's ever really tested his jiu-jitsu because his wrestling game is good. His top control is good. He's got really strong hips. He's short and he's got good hands. So here's the interesting matchup here. You got Volkanovski with a really good wrestling, with a good striking, although he's short, and no one's tested his jiu-jitsu. On the flip side, you have a good black belt, a very good black belt in jiu-jitsu, whose hands have improved a lot and who has fairly good wrestling. So I think what a lot of people are thinking is that Volkanovski has never gone up against someone whose jiu-jitsu is this good. And Ortega always looks out for wrestlers shooting in and then puts them in front in guillotine chokes or front chokes. And he's just waiting for someone to shoot so he can choke them out. So if Volkanovski decides he doesn't want any part of the ground game,
right,
then not only is he going to be striking with a guy 3 inches taller and longer, but that might allow Ortega to get the confidence and start walking him down. If Ortega senses that Volkanovski wants no part of the ground, then all of a sudden Ortega has that mental edge and he can start walking him down. So I don't think Volkanovski wants that, but I
don't think Volkanovski's afraid to go to the ground.
Right,
quite
even
frankly.
with a good black belt, just because he's so fast and short and strong. Because it is harder to catch someone with short arms who's that short.
He's got great MMA wrestling,
and his neck is short too and thick, so it's kind of harder to choke him. That's what I think. I think Volk is going to say, "Hey, I'm a complete balanced mixed martial artist. I don't give a damn how good your jiu-jitsu is. If I can take you down, I will."
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, if he takes him down, the smart thing for him to do would be to land a little bit of ground and pound, get back up, rinse and repeat. But you know what's weird? All fighters have egos. They have to. And what I think might happen is, and you can tell me this, Adam, whether you think you agree with this or not agree with this, whether you think this will happen or not. I think the smart thing for Volkanovski to do would be, if he can get the takedown, throw a couple punches, even if he can get 2 punches, even if he can get 1, get back up. But for some reason, these better fighters tend to have an ego like this, where Volkanovski's going to say, you know what? You want me to do that. You guys who want me to not be in danger want me to do that. But I am going to stay on the ground with this black belt just for shits and giggles and show you that he can't submit me as I'm pounding him. And
Right.
I just think that that's so dangerous, but I bet you he does it. What do you think? He shouldn't do it.
I don't think he will.
No?
No.
Or at least not often.
Right.
Yeah, okay. But you do see where I'm coming from. You see it so often. And you're like, no, what are you doing? Come on, Volk, get back up. And he's like, no, I'm going to stay down here with this black belt and show you he can't catch me in anything.
Right. Well, I mean, he does do that, and he does a good job at doing that. So
Right.
we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
it's going to be really interesting. But I have Volkanovski, too. I do. It's going to be a good fight.
Oh, I think they got the odds so wrong on this. I think it should be
a bigger favorite.
Yeah, he should be a much bigger favorite.
And that could be the case. If it turns out he wins easily, then that was the case. If he does, he'll make a statement. If not, then the title could change hands. Now, obviously, the question I'm going to answer you has already been answered. Who stands a better chance of pulling the upset? The men's title contender, challenger, or the women's? And you're already told me you think Lauren can pull off the huge upset. Let's see the odds on that, because that they have as a crush.
Oh, it's a crush according to the odds makers for Shevchenko.
Look at that. That's crazy. And you know what's so weird? Look at that FanDuel having it minus 2,000 while everyone else has it anywhere. Wow, it's all over the board. It's anywhere It's anywhere from minus 1,100 to minus 1,700, and then FanDuel minus 2,000. There you go. So you got plus 1,000 at one source for Lauren Murphy, and as low as plus 650.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, Lauren was on our show. We had a great chat with her. She's a very, very tough girl. I mean, you know, it's interesting. So I'll give you guys my thought in that matchup. The jiu-jitsu goes to Lauren Murphy, although Valentina's jits is good. The wrestling probably goes to Valentina, although neither of them are all-world wrestlers. The striking definitely goes to Valentina. Experience, they're both super experienced. They're both about the same age, I think, although you know what? You want to check that? I think Valentina's like 33 and Lauren might be 36 or something. Let's see how close I am. Valentina's 33 and Lauren is 38. Yikes. So this
you say yikes, but no, listen, Lauren's been showing up, so
she has been. She's been looking great. She's come into her own in her last few fights. She's on the best win streak of her career. Let's look at some of the wins. Mara Romero Barella isn't that great a fighter. She beat her. Andrea Lee's a good fighter, and she did edge her. Roxanne Modafferi a year ago was a little bit past it, but she did beat her in a good victory. Lilia Shakarova was a crush fight with a last-second replacement. Joanne Calderwood, a very good fighter, and she did beat her. So this is what this fight, I think, is going to look like. Valentina is showing that she'll do what she can to win and use her IQ to not always play into your game. Although being that Lauren is so balanced, I think Valentina is just going to be Valentina here. I think Valentina is going to plan on piecing her up on the feet, and she's going to plan on not letting Lauren get any good position on the ground. Jennifer Maia, however, who's not as big and strong a girl as Lauren, was able to get around where she was in top position on the ground, never really coming close to any sub, but she was on top for at least a few minutes against Valentina. If Lauren can do that, Valentina could be in trouble. This is what Lauren Murphy, I think, really wants. She wants this to be a dirty fight. Valentina likes to have space. Valentina is an excellent, multiple time Muay Thai and kickboxing champion, and if she can get some space, she will just piece you up. She will light you up and make you look silly, make you look like an amateur. She's had an amazing training partner for a short while here, if not just for a few days, and the men's flyweight champion Brandon Moreno, who's an amazing guy himself, and that's just perfect. You can't beat that. They're the same weight, and obviously he brings more power and strength being a man than she does, but man, some great training there. Lauren, I think what Lauren wants is to be able to keep grinding her, maybe grind her against the fence. Lauren genuinely may be the stronger woman. I mean, I think she is.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to end up seeing here, and that's where I think she actually stands a chance.
She could get on top. She would. Would you agree though that if she wins, it'll be because she got on the top, like in mount or side or half mount or something like that?
Not just that, she's going to be the harder striker.
Or side control. Maybe harder pie, maybe, you know.
More weight, more power, usually. And I think in this case that is going to happen. She is the bigger girls, walk around weight. And listen, Valentina is a solid, like, you just look at her and her abs are like insane. I think Lauren is just more solid and is going to be able to step through. Remember, a lot of people were calling me funny when I said that Amanda Nunes would walk through her punches with Cyborg. And I think that's kind of a similar situation we're going to see here. And I think Lauren's able to gauge, the losses that Shevchenko's had here with Nunes, right? Mm-hmm. And kind of have the same game plan in the same way that Nunes had with Cyborg. Yeah, I think that's where we really see the matchup make sense at all in the first place.
Right.
Is Lauren is that type of person that can do that.
Right, and she's the #1 contender anyway, so she should have the fight. I mean, before any of you try to rip Adam too hard here, a lot of media people are afraid to pick a 10-1 underdog in a fight. So he's going out there and showing the ball.
I'm the guy that does it, and then you know what?
A lot of times it comes through.
A lot of the times I'm about it in about 80% right now. So
I think she's got a chance.
Unless it's Connor, I'm just always going to pick against Connor.
Right. I think she's got a chance. I won't go so far as to pick Lauren Murphy in this, and so if she does win, all kudos will go to Dr. Adam Roorda. But yeah, I think Valentina's amazing, but Lauren's
you're probably going to be right, but if I'm right, you know what? You owe me a dinner.
That's a deal. You got it.
All right.
That's a deal. Curtis Blades, we had on our show a couple years ago, the Razor, Curtis Blades, against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Let's look at their recent fights, because they've had a few blips in the radar.
A few blips, both of them amazing. I mean, this is going to be one hell of a match.
It really is. So Curtis was killing it until he got caught by Derek Lewis, who he was beating up until the second round, and then Francis also beat him. But other than Francis and Derek Lewis, Curtis's wrestling and his size and athleticism has dominated everyone. He's 30 years old. He's going to be taller and younger than Biggie Boy Rozenstruik. Biggie Boy came on with a lot of great power, stopped some good people. He did get caught early by Francis. It wasn't like a grind out fight where he lost all kinds of rounds. He just got clipped and stopped. And then against Cyril Gane, that's what was a little problematic, is what Gane did to him, but then Gane did the same thing to Volkov, which is amazing. Cyril Gane is a really, really great fighter, and so they both only lose to the best. In fact, Cyril Gane is our interim heavyweight champion, so there's that. It's going to be a fight. Curtis Blades and the wrestling he has made the odds makers make him about 3-1 favorite.
And I don't agree with that, which is my primary reason. I think it should be dead even. In all honesty, I think they've faced the same caliber of fighters and had the same type of outcome, very, very similar.
And
so I think it should be more.
Chin has shown that he can be touched, and if he gets, and you think Biggie Boy has that power.
And I think with the odds makers having it this far off, that's
there's value in Rozenstruik.
There's value in Rozenstruik, and I would actually personally put, just based off of MMA math, put Rozenstruik as a little bit of a favorite, slight favorite.
Right, because the thing is, that is the question mark. Rozenstruik has not really gone up against a really good wrestler who wanted to wrestle him before.
Right, and we know 100% Curtis is going to want to wrestle. So.
For sure. And so, basically, if Rozenstruik's takedown defense is good, this could be a replay of those two disastrous fights for Curtis. Rozenstruik, less experienced, but not by much. Actually 14 fights and 17 fights. I was just talking to another analyst earlier that a lot of wrestlers are becoming afraid to wrestle, or they just don't want to get caught coming in. So if Curtis is tentative here, if he's so concerned about the big overhand right or left or anything that Biggie Boy can throw, and if he's tentative, Biggie Boy probably catches him. But then again, he's also shown when he comes in, he gets caught. But I think he's going to have to be very careful. He's going to have to look for these low ankle picks. In fact, let me ask you this, Adam. As a grappler, as I am in jiu-jitsu, only knew a little bit about wrestling firsthand through friends. Never was a wrestler. I know you wrestled in school. So frequently you see them telling wrestlers, and I think Blades was freestyle. I don't think he was Greco. But so often you see people telling freestyle wrestlers, just get low and do those ankle picks, dude. Shoot low, 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 low. And then you don't see them doing that, even though they need to do that.
Yo, that outside ankle pick is what he did. But heavyweights,
is that harder to do? Is for what?
Oh, you have to have tons. The big guys will never do it. Big guys, it's almost always going to be a hip toss or a. When it comes to wrestling,
because it's just
a lot more bulldogging.
Because it'll gas out their quads when they try to shoot low.
Right, well, they're just carrying so much weight. There's not enough speed to be able to get in and pick that ankle. Now, a lightweight or flyweight, you're going to be able to just zip right in.
Right.
That's when you want to see that outside ankle pick.
Right. Well, however, in this fight, one of the mistakes that Curtis made in his last fight against Derek Lewis was I think he was having success taking him down, and then I think he kind of shot in with a lazy takedown where he was
lazy
high,
double legs,
and he was kind of high, and Lewis was like, "You're gonna put your head here, boom."
At the level of wrestling that Curtis does that fight, I was so unimpressed with it, and I love Curtis, but I was just unimpressed with that last takedown.
It looked terrible. It almost looked like he half-assed it. Like he said, "I'm taking this guy down."
I was just reach forward with the arm straight up. Well, your head's supposed to be up, but the way he did it was
finishing it. But it's almost like he bull rushed in with his head up. So he knows not to do that. But you're saying, despite how much he might want to shoot for ankle picks all night, it's going to be difficult for a heavyweight to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And but obviously that would be the safer thing.
If there is somebody that can do it at heavyweight, it's going to be Curtis,
because he's young and he's very athletic.
He's very, very athletic.
And he's not heavy. I mean, look at that good frame for a heavyweight. He's just so tall that 250 some pounds on him, he can be lean.
Right.
So so if he can do that, if he can shoot in, because a non-wrestler, a guy not even from the United States like Biggie Boy, I don't think he'd have any answer for ankle picks if Curtis was able to do that all night.
Right.
I mean, it would just be like, you're up and then you're down. You're up and then you're down.
Speaking of heavyweights that I believe both of these guys have faced.
And also we have 3 minutes.
I know. That's why I'm kind of transitioning here, buddy.
Fabulous. Shoot it. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Continue.
No, it's all right. I just have to laugh.
Not a problem. Continue.
Speaking of both of these guys, they've both faced Alistair Overeem. What are your thoughts about him with kickboxing now? Do you think he's going to take this Dutch beast down?
Is he fighting Rico Verhoeven, I guess?
Yes, he is.
Wow. I mean, he fought... Alistair's 40 years old, I believe, or 41. Mm-hmm. He did fight kickboxing for several years, and because he was so rugged as an MMA fighter, and he was also thicker than most kickboxers. A lot of kickboxers at heavyweight are no more than like 235, 240, and he would cut in kickboxing he didn't. He'd come in at like 270, 280.
Right.
And he did well because he was young enough and he was really big, but he did not ever have the technique of the better kickboxers, and so he did. So now that he's 40, to go back in there
and go face out of everybody Rico Verhoeven.
I mean, that's not a good look, I think, for him. I'd be curious what the odds are there if we could find maybe later in the show.
I mean, this would be like if Silva would have came into boxing and faced Canelo at an appropriate weight class, or just saying if Canelo weighed the same as Silva.
Right.
That's kind of what we're looking at here, and I don't.
Yeah. It's a big ask. It's a big ask for
it's a big ask, but it'll be exciting. I think most people in the kickboxing world know that Verhoeven's going to take this one.
Yeah.
Anybody that watches seriously knows that. But hey, it really tees up a lot of opportunities if it's even close.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's go.
Well,
you still don't see her yet?
No, I'll try.
Let's try.
He's probably going to give me a wonk.
We're going to try to call her now, although she didn't accept the request as of yet. Actually, it looks good.
Come on, join us with the Skype dance.
All right, so it looks like we're gonna let her.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
That she's not picking up, and that's always no fun. We just tried her on Skype and she didn't pick up. Period.
That's a bummer when that happens.
No, it is, but I think that we have, the good thing is we do have the person who's working with her that will make that happen. Because the weird thing that I wonder is if it rang like that, then it shows she's on, right? Is that what that means?
No, because she hasn't even accepted the invitation yet.
Okay.
So
all right, so I have a feeling I'm going to predict.
There's no showing that she's online.
Okay, I'm going to predict within 5 minutes that we're going to get that resolved, because they haven't let us down as of yet. I think one time when their fighter fell asleep and they couldn't even get a hold of them on the phone, but you know, we have.
And they did us a favor the next week because listen, our next guest is PFL fighter, right? Man,
getting ready to fight for $1 million in 5 weeks from now.
They're great with press. For those of you that are press, you guys should definitely tune in. I'm going to take this opportunity to say head on over to our social media, hit us up. It's at MMA Power Hour. Thank you in advance for all the likes, comments, and shares. It really helps get word out about not only our news site and our posts over there, but also our show. You guys are absolutely amazing for tuning in every week. If you're tuning in on Fight TV, make sure to head on over to our Facebook there, and then also check out the Hannibal TV. We are over there as well. For those of you on the Hannibal TV, make sure to hit up Fight TV. It's FITE.TV. Make sure to type in the search bar MMA Power Hour and make sure to subscribe to our channel. It is free. You can sign up with an email address. Our show is free. There's a bunch of other great free programming for you to watch, and then also great pay-per-views on Fight TV. Wrestling, kickboxing, fighting, jiu-jitsu, celebrity fighting, and they do the Triller versus also. So for those of you hip-hop fans, and then they have a lot of concerts as well. So you might as well go ahead and get signed up over at Fight TV, and like I said, it's FITE.TV.
That would be awesome. We would really appreciate it, and we do appreciate your watching us and your support. So while they are hopefully working on that, we can hopefully any second be able to possibly have a call. So let's go to the third fight on the card, which is the Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler fight. We already talked all about that. That could go either way. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Let's skip over that one. I mean, some people might be excited about that.
You don't like that one? Why?
Nah, I'm just not entertained by it. Listen, Andrade.
I mean, Andrade did get owned by Valentina, but was killing it before then. And this is the right weight class for her. She's short, but Cynthia Calvillo is short as well. I mean, this is an interesting fight. Andrade fought as high as bantamweight, but then went down to strawweight before the flyweight division existed, and is now at flyweight, the perfect place for her to be. Yes, she did get owned against Shevchenko, but didn't she fight once after that, or no? Take a look. I don't think so. Nope. Her last fight was 6 months ago, 5.5 months ago.
I mean, there's no shame in who she's been losing to lately, but I just... But
then let's say Cynthia Calvillo, formerly of Team Alpha Male, and I think she went over to AK for a while. Now she's somewhere else. She did look really, really good. She went up and won her first. She had a draw against Marina Rodriguez.
Out of all the people, that's what I'm saying. I think this is going to be a smash.
Well, by who? You think who's going to smash who? You think Andrade, like the oddsmakers say, is going to crush her?
No, I think it's the other way.
Wow,
so in that sense,
there you go. Because she's got the jiu-jitsu.
That's a single pick I'm going to do on my own.
Yeah, she may be technically better, and there you go. So that is something interesting. You do have the 3-1 dog in Cynthia Calvillo in that fight, and that's definitely possible.
And guess what? We have our guests. So
there we go.
Let's give her a call.
All right. Hey, Taylor, I see you right there. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing great. We are live already, so I will give you an introduction and we'll get rocking. So, ladies and gentlemen, happy to have this guest on our show for the first time, joining a list of very high-level women's competitors in all the leagues. We've had contenders and champions from PFL, UFC, one championship in Bellator. This is an amazing lightweight fighter, top contender, getting ready to fight for $1 million in the PFL finals. We're so happy to welcome Taylor Guardado to our show. Welcome, Taylor.
Hi, Hi, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. We are excited to talk to you. I love the fact that there's a women's lightweight division. You can ask anyone that knows our show, including my producer and co-host, that I've always been saying, why does it have to be only these smaller girls fighting? Because people want to see different weight classes for the women, and so I'm really excited that the PFL has embraced that, and I'm sure you were as well. I believe all of your fights have been at lightweight, or am I wrong?
My first fight was at as a pro, I should say, it was at 135 for the Invicta Phoenix tournament.
That's right, and that's where you fought the guest we're having after you, Serena DeJesus, funny enough. And yeah, and that was a really good fight. And so I didn't realize that was at 35 because that's where she stayed. You've gone up in weight, and it looks like you found a good fit at 55. So you went from 35 to 55, or did you do a fight at 45 as well?
No, I went straight from 35 to 55 in my pro career. As an amateur, I fought all the way from like 35 up to 55 all over the place.
Nice. And do you feel that 55 is your home, or do you think you may be visiting 45 again one day?
I honestly can see myself down at 35 again one day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I feel super healthy. You know, obviously I don't have to cut any weight for this 55 division,
right.
But I just feel my strongest when I'm at 135 because I feel so much bigger than the other women in the division.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, and we have you on video. I think we're seeing your ear now. I know you can't see us, but we do have video with you there. No problem. That's totally good. All good. So your opponent probably can't say the same about what weight divisions she would fight at. She did make 45 once, and she still looked good. So she's not an absolutely enormous lightweight, but she probably would never be seeing 35. Kayla Harrison, would you agree?
Probably not. I know she said I think I recall her saying something about like when she made 45, it wasn't impossible, and she was able to do it, you know, dieting down and everything, but she didn't like the cut there. But I just don't see her at 35. She's a big, strong woman, so like, why take away the strength and have to cut even probably muscle to get down to 35?
Without a doubt. So do you think when on fight day she'll be stepping in there 5 or 6 pounds heavier than you, or 10 pounds, or the same weight as you? What would you say?
Probably heavier than me, because I honestly step into that cage no more than 160. But I don't see her, or I see her being bigger than me. All the girls that I've fought have been much bigger than me, so I don't see. I'm pretty sure I've been the smallest person in the division so far.
Yep, gotcha. And this is October 27th, the finals. And you just came off a win over what was it, Mariana Moraes, was it?
Yes.
And she, I think, had 2 fights with Kayla, right?
One, I believe. Well, maybe one.
Someone had 2 fights with Kayla. I wonder if Dr. Adam Roorda, my producer, can queue up. If you want to pull up Taylor Guardado, and then we can cross-reference by going down to her previous. Oh yeah, go to Kayla. Yeah, go to Kayla. Okay, so
I think it was Larissa Pacheco had 2 fights with her.
Let's see. It was actually, did Moraes, or was it Larissa? Yep, you're right. It was Larissa. So Moraes had 1 fight with her and did get caught early. So what do you think? Kayla Harrison, she's like this big blonde juggernaut. Former 2-time Olympic judo gold medalist. She has had some women give her some problems, but then she's just had some women come in there and get absolutely smashed. Obviously, she probably has an intimidation factor going for her, but I don't get the feeling that you're someone that's intimidated that much. What do you think about Kayla Harrison and what you bring to the table?
I'm not intimidated. I don't think I've ever been intimidated by any athlete. They're in there for the same reason that I'm in there. You know, we're in there to fight. You're already there. You're already in the cage. There's no reason to be scared and add any extra emotions that you don't need. I know I'm a huge underdog in this fight, but the thing is, like I have nothing to lose with this fight, really. I've made it to the finals in a season that I wasn't even A, supposed to be in, but then B, expected to make it to the finals in. So I mean, like I've made it this far, win or lose. Like I'm completely proud of myself. My team is very proud of myself, but we're planning on winning. So I mean,
without a doubt, absolutely. And you actually bring some grappling to the table. It seems like she ends up fighting a lot of strikers, right? And then she ends up just smashing them. And you've got some strength. You really seem to have a good fight IQ in there. and to a determined fighter. And you're over there. Are you still at Extreme Couture? I know Sherdog tends to give crappy information. So they have you as Extreme Couture. I bet they're wrong, or are they right?
No, they're right. They're right.
Cool. So you get some really good looks over there, and a lot of people like Extreme Couture is kind of like reinventing themselves. They were huge 10 and 15 years ago. They kind of slowed down a little bit in the mid 2000 teens, and now a lot of people are going there again. So I'm sure you're getting some great looks. And so I you know, the interesting thing is seems like she's been wrestling a lot. It seems like very few people are trying to clinch with her and have her throw them. If you notice, she's a judo black belt who's not frequently throwing anybody, but it seems like she's kind of morphed into a wrestler, but that wasn't her pedigree. She's not any kind of all-world freestyle or Greco wrestler, but she seems to want to do that, and wrestling is right in your wheelhouse. Do you think that that's something that's going to present an interesting challenge for her, and you plan on using some of that wrestling, or how much do you want to disclose on what your strategy is?
No, that's fine. I mean, like, everyone knows I wrestle. I mean, like, and I think that's going to make a difference, because she really hasn't fought someone that has a heavy wrestling background. She's fought a lot of strikers, she's fought a lot of kickboxers, stuff like that. But I mean, like, someone that knows how to read takedowns and stuff like that, you know, like I'm hoping to present a challenge to her that she hasn't experienced yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you end up on top in a scramble, the crowd is probably going to go berserk. So, you know, and speaking about that, have you ever like had a crowd just reacting that just like surprised you? I mean, it's got to be a weird feeling. 99% of us don't know what it feels like to be fighting in front of a crowd, right? So tell us what happens, like all of a sudden. Have you ever had anything where a crowd just reacts, and does it catch you by surprise? Does it fill you with adrenaline? Does it distract you? What's it like?
I honestly can't hear any. I think I'm notorious for this. I can't hear anything outside of my corner, which is actually a great attribute to have as a fighter. But I don't know if I've ever heard like the crowd go crazy or them boo or anything like that during the fight. Like after the fight, you hear everything, obviously. But I mean, like during the fight, I only can hear my 3 cornermen, and I think that's why I like having them there, is because their voices are so like, I'm so in tune with their voices that I can tune everything else out except for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about who usually corners you, and as much as you want to divulge, who's been helping you with this camp, or who are some of your regular training partners at Extreme Couture.
Yeah, so my corners are Dennis Davis, Nathan Pettit, and Eric Nixick. Eric Nixick was the 2020 Coach of the Year last year through MMA Junkie and the Schmo and all that stuff.
Yep.
He's helped, you know, coach Francis Ngannou. He coaches Misha Tate. He coaches everyone. He coaches a ton of people, and I'm extremely proud to be under him, because you know he's when it comes down to it, he's just so smart, and he breaks things down so simple, which works for a lot of fighters, including myself, who's like, if you say too big of words, I'm going to be confused. Like, it's just,
I hear you.
He's very good at saying, here's why we're doing this. So this is when we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do this.
Absolutely.
So he's very good with those 3 things. Yeah. My coach, Dennis Davis. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. I've heard amazing things about Eric Nixick. I'm sure the other guys are great, but yeah, he's apparently just one of the great minds of MMA.
Absolutely. Yeah. My other coach, my coach, Dennis Davis, he is a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's been fighting for years. You know, he's retired now, obviously, as a fighter. He's just a coach here. He's also the head coach at Extreme. Mm-hmm. He is so smart, and he's actually my main training partner for this camp. Cool. Because he's great with judo and wrestling and all that stuff. So he's just so smart, and he breaks things down extremely well for me. And then my coach, Nathan Pettit, he's my mitts and pad holder, and he's really good with Muay Thai. So he has me, and he's good with reading situations too. So he's good, like, hey, you need to take literally like half step this way, and you're going to land here, and then it happens. And I don't know, they all just have their purpose. And I think that using all 3 of them has made it just like a perfect mesh for me. And I can understand them all when they're talking to me, and I can they all know not to talk over each other, which is nice. They all get along really well, which is a huge thing for me too. But it's just like having 3 of my big brothers best friends there with me every time I bring them with me.
That's awesome. And you mentioned Misha Tate. Do you get any looks from her, or is she too small to kind of really do anything for you when you have lightweight fights? And if not her, who are some of the training partners that have helped you for this camp or that usually help you?
She and I trained a little bit before her first fight back, but once she started losing the weight, she got really focused into her own training camp as well. We're both focused on our own selves, so we don't train with each other too much anymore. But yeah, we've offered to help each other, but I mean, like, it just comes down to, hey, we're just offering to help, and then we both just go and do our own thing.
Right, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, but as far as like my training partners go, I use guys all the time, and that's just how I've always been. I get a look from a girl here and there. There's one girl here that is an amazing wrestler. She wrestled in college. Her name's Erin Scheit, and she's actually my size. And she actually only has a wrestling background, so she's really getting into MMA. But she comes and helps me on my wrestling days, and her and I are scrapping all the time. But my other main training partner is my husband, AJ Guardado, who him and I just are trying to beat the crap out of each other every time he comes in. So that's a lot of fun.
Nice. I like that. What is it that seems to be making Kayla successful? Obviously, she's a big, strong girl. She's confident. She's got a good training camp at American Top Team, but they also lose sometimes as well. It seems almost like, like a lot of the girls are intimidated or just strikers or just jiu-jitsu girls. I like the fact that you're kind of a more compact, thicker girl with wrestling, because she doesn't usually have opponents like that. And it's weird with her wrestling. It seems like she's kind of become a pretty good wrestler. But I mean, if she was not able to throw anybody, is her wrestling good enough to keep her winning? What's your thought about how good Kayla Harrison's wrestling is?
Yeah, I think so. I think just in general with women's MMA, nothing against it, but I mean, like, a lot of women don't like to wrestle,
right.
And if you get really good at wrestling, it's hard to beat it. It is what it is. It's hard to get past a good wrestler's double leg, especially if they can blast double you or snatch single you, anything like that, like a body lock, anything.
Yeah.
But I think if she didn't have judo, she'd still be a great fighter. I mean, like, she's gotten where she is because she's a great mixed martial artist, but she's only had to use so much right now. So I mean, like, I'm hoping to test all of her assets come October 27th.
Absolutely. And I believe PFL, even the finals, are 3 rounds, or are they 5?
5, I believe.
Okay, cool. It's got to be then. It would make sense.
I hope so. That's what I've been thinking.
Yeah, and I wonder how many 5s she's gone. Dr. Adam Roorda, can you click on Kayla Harrison? Curious to see if she's gone any 5s. You probably know, Taylor, but let's take a look. So Kayla has round one. There's a 5. She went 5 with Larissa once, and then it's another round 3, round 1, and round 3. So a lot of round 1s. Then there's a round 2, and then she went 5 with Larissa, and she went 3 with Larissa. So can you take anything from the fact that Larissa Pacheco went the distance with her both times? I don't think you haven't fought Larissa, I don't believe, but are you familiar with her, and what did Larissa do in those fights so much better than these other women, but just not quite enough to win?
I think that Larissa literally just didn't show any fear, didn't respect her. You know what I mean? I think that's what a lot of these women do, is they show up and they put so much respect to, which she does deserve some respect. But I mean, like, when you get into a fight, you're there to fight someone. Right. So the respect kind of has to go out the door a little bit, and you kind of have to remember to implement your own game plan. Otherwise, you're just going to get worked the whole time, which I think a lot of her opponents do. They get in there and they're like, okay, got to look out for that takedown, got to look out for that takedown. Oh, no, I'm taken down.
Right.
And they forget that they can punch and they can kick and they can do all these things, too, that can at least slow her down, you know? So I think when it comes down to it, like, it's just a matter of just implementing your own game plan and while being smart and avoiding hurt.
Absolutely. And how has the vibe been with you and Kayla? All respectful, or is there some trash talk?
No, all respect, honestly. There's been no trash talk from what I understand. At least I don't look into it too much. So right. I mean, like, if she has said anything mean, I haven't read anything about it, but I don't like to trash talk. I'm not a big trash talker, so I mean, like, as far as I understand, it's been nothing but mutual respect. I think the fact that we're both moms has something to do with us respecting each other a little bit too.
Yeah.
Because we both understand the struggle outside of the gym as well.
Without a doubt, that is super cool. Do you think you can throw hands with her, or would you much prefer if it was a lot of wrestling?
I'm comfortable everywhere. It doesn't matter where it's going to go. I'm going to be comfortable. This is the hardest training camp of my life. We're doing everything smart and everything efficiently, and I'm feeling better than ever, honestly.
Nice. Guardado, what name is that background? Like Spanish or Italian, or what's your background?
It's my husband's name. It's Mexican, but I'm black and white.
Cool. I like that. So you have all great things, it looks like, from all backgrounds. Very cool. And we only have another minute or two left, but I know that you're excited about this fight, and you're going to do well. I think you are going to. Do you plan on having a long career for several more years, or do you have an end date?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I do this because I love it. Like that's obviously this money is very, very, very cool. Like I've already changed our lives this year with the PFL.
Awesome.
But I mean, like, when it comes down to it, I came back into this sport because I love it, and I knew that I wanted to continue to do it. And I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. I'm healthy, and I'm 30 now, but I feel healthier. And 30-year-old Taylor could beat up 21-year-old Taylor any day.
Yes.
Like, so I mean, like, when it comes down to it, I'm still getting better and better and better, and I'm gonna keep going until I don't think I'm getting better anymore.
I like that, and I think you're right in your prime, which is a really good position to be in. Well, what's the best social media place for people to support you, Taylor?
I'm really active on Instagram. It's Taylor Gordito, which means Taylor little fat boy in Spanish, which is funny.
I love it.
That's because I like to eat, and I was like, oh, that's perfect for PFL. So Taylor Gordito on Instagram. I do have a Twitter that's also Taylor Gordito, and then I have Facebook, but I don't really add anyone on there.
No problem. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. PFL is awesome. We love Tawny Cox over there. She's amazing, and I'm glad that you appreciate them. They treat their fighters well, and I'm so excited to see you do well. You've got a great attitude. You're a tough, grindy wrestler there, and you've got some good hands, and I'm excited to see you pull off the upset and surprise the world and beat Kayla Harrison. I wish you the very best, and really appreciate you taking the time to join us here on the MMA Power Hour.
Thank you so much for having me. You've been amazing.
You're very welcome. Thank you for saying that. We'll talk soon. Have a great rest of your training camp. Be well.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. And that was Taylor Guardado. She is the first good wrestler, Adam, that Kayla Harrison will have met. And Kayla did struggle with Larissa Pacheco, who was a little bit of a grappler, but more jiu-jitsu and with some hands. And I think that Taylor has a shot. Taylor, obviously, admittedly, is not a huge lightweight, so she may be giving away 5 or 8 or 10 pounds on fight day, but I don't think that's insurmountable, and I think she's got a good chance. She's very tough and has a great attitude, very relaxed. I like her respectful personality, and so yeah, I think she's going to bring something to that fight, don't you?
100%. I think this is going to be a real exciting one. I think this is the one that Kayla Harrison is she should be afraid.
Yeah, I think so. Taylor's got something for her. Can't wait to see it happen. Anyway, we are 2 minutes away, or actually whenever you want, to bring on our next guest.
I would say let's wait the 2 minutes.
Take the 2 minutes so we don't go. We're never good to be early. You're right, because fighters, and anyone, when you make an appointment, I always hated the people that
I can tell she's ready. But
still,
this is a special case. There's a rhyme and a reason. I'm saying let's stick to the 7:25. But very special guest tonight in a lot of amazing ways. Listen, I'm excited. But in the meantime, before we get there, it's at MMA Power Hour on all of our social media platforms. Definitely hit us up, give us likes, comments, and shares. We want to say thank you so much in advance for that. We love you guys so much for your support. And those of you that are tuning in on our social media or the Hannibal TV, make sure to head on over to the Fight TV. Also, give us a subscribe over there. Check us out over there. That's really something that we love. We love to see you guys subscribing over there. And then also, if you're on Fight TV, make sure to hit up the Hannibal TV on Facebook specifically. We're over there as well.
Yep, Hannibal the Cannibal. Think of
Hannibal
that.
the Cannibal. Yeah. He does have a pretty cool YouTube channel as well.
Yes.
I can't remember how many subscribers.
Almost 300,000. Almost 300,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a great channel. All right, now we should try to get our
Let's go.
guest coming on. Do a Skype dance. Hello there, Serena. Can you hear me?
Hi, I can hear you perfectly.
Awesome. We got you there. You can't see us, but as long as you can see you're in frame, you're all good, and you'll see the show will look great. We're live. Let me give you a proper introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, super excited to have our next guest for the first time. Both guests, first-timers on a show. Our last guest, also an amazing female fighter. I love, everyone knows me, I love and respect female MMA fighters. So we are so happy to welcome amazing Invicta fighter Serena DeJesus, and she is a bantamweight. Welcome to the show, Serena. So excited to talk to you.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lovely Tuesday evening.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, ironically enough, the guest we had on right before you was an old opponent of yours, Taylor Guardado. Remember her?
Ooh.
She is going to be fighting against Kayla Harrison at 155, and she fought you at 135. I don't think there was any bad blood between the two of you, right?
Nah, I really wanted to get that money angle before she left for PFL, because I'm thinking to myself, does she not like money? But she just jumped into 155 fighting Kayla Harrison, so I guess she does like money, so go her, I guess.
Exactly, this is true. Not to distract from you, but do you think she can bring something to Kayla? She looks like a strong girl. She's got some wrestling. Kayla usually is fighting lanky girls that don't have a lot of wrestling. Is there some possibility, or do you feel Kayla is the blonde Terminator that just keeps terminating?
I mean, I think Kayla has good hands for a grappler. No takeaway from Guardado, but I'm seeing Kayla Harrison get people down, like hit hard enough that she can come in and do what is her strong point. I hope that Guardado's wrestling can negate the judo throw attempts and everything else in Kayla. I personally think it'll be close.
Yeah.
You know, I'm excited to tune in and watch.
Yeah, absolutely. October 27th. Now let's talk about you. You are on a good streak. You are fighting at 135. You had fought at what, 45 and 55 even? Or tell me what divisions you fought.
I've stayed clearly in bantamweight ever since my amateur career. I don't plan anytime soon to bounce around the divisions. Like, there's no rationale for me to do so.
Absolutely. Although I know when you fought Taylor, she probably walked in there 10 pounds heavier than you, I would imagine, because she said when she was a bantamweight, really big.
It didn't matter to me. Like, she felt heavy on the fence. But if you guys watched the exhibition fight we had in that tournament, I was pushing her around. I was the bully. I was getting her on the fence more than ever, elbowing her. There's this iconic gif where they catch me. I go full toes to mouth right there. And I've even had like really cool artists like Jacinta, the last name, she'll kill me, but she draws like these beautiful works of art for MMA fighters, and she catches that picture.
Nice.
And pencil just draws me just full on like the photo, like toes in the mouth, and I'm just like, this goes on my wall.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, you have beat a couple of women that have fought in the UFC recently, and you're really looking good in Invicta, and I know they appreciate people that grind and hustle. How do you like being over in Invicta, and do you think your next fight will be there, or are you looking other places as well?
I love Invicta. Like, Angela, who works there, helps really take care of all the girls and everything. The drivers do, like, they take time from their jobs to go do this, and Shannon's looking out for everybody. There was a weird transition. There was that time last year we're all thinking like, oh my God, what's happening to Invicta? Because we're hearing rumors that Invicta's folding and all that. So to see her bring it to the next level with Access TV and everything, I think it's really cool.
I love that. And yeah, you're the one actually. Yeah. You were the one that just made me aware of that. So sorry to interrupt you, but I did not know that. Invicta is on Access TV now.
Yes. They got bought by Anthem. And Anthem Sports Media or whatever, have Impact and all that. It's kind of cool.
Without a doubt, I'm really excited about seeing that because I've always loved Access TV. They used to have the only national MMA talk show inside the MMA. I don't know if you're an old school, but remember that? Boss Rutan, right?
Mhm.
And I love that. Kenny Rice, and then they had Mauro Ranallo in the last couple of years. I remember they would throw it over to Michael Chiavello and Pat Miletich doing the LFA shows, right? And oh, that was such a great show. That was obviously owned there by Mark Cuban. I remember one episode, you can YouTube it, where the guests were Mark Cuban, the owner of the station, Joe Rogan, the crazy Jason Mayhem Miller, and they were cussing up a storm. It was hilarious. You got to check that if you could YouTube it. It was from like 10 years ago or something, I think.
Oh God, what a time! Like, I'm gonna be 30 in January, and hearing that, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, when I started training and everything, not long now.
Mm-hmm. I know time does fly by. Well, you are, I'm sure, someone they want to have in Invicta again. Is there any talk of a next opponent, or is there anything you can tell us, or is it kind of still in limbo?
We're trying. Me and my management team, Prime Elite Management, are trying to kind of angle, because I love Invicta. I would love to fight for Invicta again, but it's all about quality opponents, quality pay. You know, I have one career. I might as well milk it for all it has. But ideally, I would love to fight for the Invicta belt. It'd be a fun little story, because I fought Tenet before 2 years ago for my Invicta debut, and I feel like I've really grown a lot from it. Also really changed up my look a bit. I used to have hair down to here. Now from back-to-back fights, I kind of had to cut a little insurance policy off, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So is she the current Bantamweight champ over there, Tanisha Tennant?
She fought on the same card. She fought Lisa Brazosa for the belt, and I got to watch that and saw how that fight unfolded, which was kind of good for my studies. My coach, Marvin Eastman, probably remember him, don't you?
I do, absolutely.
I've really grown under him, I think, in the striking department, so I think I'm going to show her that I'm not that scrawny, timid little thing or whatever. I've grown a lot. My body's being better because of my diet I get from my nutritionist and strength conditioning coach at Primetime Performance here in Vegas.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think everything's set for that, or give me a shot at Contenders or something. I mean, those two UFC veterans I fought, they were literally back-to-back. I fought Elizabeth Phillips in June.
Yep. And
then the manager's like, hey, Invicta called. They want you to fight this UFC veteran at the end of August. Can you do it?
Crazy.
I'm like, oh, God, no. But, yeah, so I got to work. I hardly had any rest. I just jumped back in the tank and just kept going.
That is awesome. And so having had 2 fights in 3 months, when do you think you're going to be fresh enough and healed enough to go again? Next month, or would you prefer November, December, what?
I'm healed enough right now. I'm just trying to get a few things of my personal life kind of squared away. I'm trying to get this trip where my friend in Tennessee is giving me his car, and I'm going to go visit my a gunsmith sponsor of mine, and put together a little fun AR-15 for myself, just for target shooting and whatnot.
Cool.
I'm here in Las Vegas. That's why I go in the desert and shoot cans and stuff for fun.
Some
people,
cool.
That's just my thing.
Nice.
Let's do that, and then I'm going to drive all the way back from Tennessee to Vegas. So
nice.
But like I said, if the offer of the opponent and the money's good for it, I can side skirt my plan for a little bit. It's just I'm at walking weight. I feel really strong. I'm doing really good. I mean, I only took a week off for my last fight.
Wow.
Like, totally unbruised. Like, I don't think there was a bruise anywhere on my body. I just was sore.
I like that.
Because after fight, adrenaline's up, but all the adrenaline leaves your body and your muscles just become stiff with lactic acid. It is the worst feeling.
Yes, I can imagine. It's good that you know about that, because the more you know about your health and recovery, and you've got great people working with you, the better you can be as a professional athlete. Now, are you doing some training at Syndicate? I see that SureDog has that listed, but they're frequently wrong. Or were you just there shortly, or do you go there once in a while, or where do you normally train in a Syndicate part of the structure?
I've been in Syndicate since, well, I first visited in 2014, had my fight camp there when I still lived in, but then I would fly home to where I lived before and grew up in Philadelphia. And then it turned in 2016 to be a permanent stay in Las Vegas. And I stayed at Syndicate full time. So, yeah, I've been with them a hot minute, I'd like to say.
Nice. And there are a lot of great people there. Throw out, if you would, especially since there's no immediate fight coming up, this wouldn't be giving away any secrets you don't want to give away. Throw out some of the people that you normally train with there. Maybe at first some names that people may have heard of, and then if you want to, some people that no one's heard of.
Okay, so we're going to go with the obvious one, given the fight this weekend. I train with my friend Roxanne Modafferi.
Awesome.
I'm not giving away her game plan clearly, but
right.
She's learned a lot from her last fight.
Right.
She does all the right things, you know. She's working all the time with people with her. I mean, I'm pretty inspired. Like, you know, the girl's going to turn 39 like the day before, or I think it's the day before her fight.
Awesome. She's amazing. What a legend. Absolute pioneer, right?
Fire to fight that long, you know, to be that cool and fight that long.
Yep.
So we got her, we got Joanne Calderwood, we got Bella Meir, the daughter of Frank Mir.
Oh yeah, what's she like?
Oh my God, she's a tank. Like, I train with straight up dudes a lot because I also don't give a fuck, and I've sparred 155-pound women from TFL. My Ukrainian homegirl, Olena, I can't pronounce it. Back in town.
Right.
Bella Meir is the only girl when she shoots a double to like totally have my feet leave the ground.
Wow.
Like, act alone makes my feet leave the ground. So if I don't frame and turn like that, I'm going for a ride.
Nice. Yeah. What does Bella fight at? Featherweight or lightweight?
She's more of a bantam and featherweight. It really depends on like how short notice the fight is or whatnot.
Right.
But she's ambitious. What makes you feel like you want the belt? And she's like, all of them. I'm like,
nice. Nice.
17 again.
Yeah, I hear you. I know. She's so young. It's great. And that Frank Mir, her dad, got to be really proud because she's an amazing fighter. And then Roxanne is amazing. And then who was the other one that you threw out? Did you throw out one more?
And then we also have Ramona Pascal, who's really cool. She fought on Icon in June.
Nice.
And she's good. I think big things are coming for her.
Right, definitely. And it's a great school. How often I guess Randy is running around the world doing movies and other stuff, but is he there sometimes? And have you had any interaction with him?
With who?
What am I saying? Randy Couture. That was our last guest at Extreme Couture. Forget that. That was a brain fart. So at Syndicate.
But that's as much interaction I've had with him.
There we go. Well, that's something, because I know he's in Las Vegas. There we go. I knew that was Vegas. So who are some of the more famous fighters that you've met in Las Vegas? There's got to be a ton of them. And have you had any positive words from any of them or get inspired by any of them?
I've met Miriam Nakamoto, and she's really cool. I like her because she's a Muay Thai-based striker and everything.
Yes.
She's really good.
She's a great legend. I saw her fight in a Muay Thai fight in L.A. like 10 years ago.
That is Kickboxing and Striking by Love and Joy. I have met Jessica Rose Clark. We're actually teammates for a while at Syndicate, and she's really cool.
Nice.
She's through a lot of things that have come up for me this year and stuff, so big thanks to her. We have Khalil Roundtree also at the gym. He's dope as hell. Some of the more famous fighters I have met in Las Vegas. Well, I went out to dinner. Misha Tate took me out for dinner once when I was still an amateur. So does that count?
Nice. I like that. And I know, and Misha is over there at Extreme Couture as well. She's an amazing fighter. This comeback is fantastic after having 2 kids. You know, that's what's inspiring. You know, I mean, I've always loved women's MMA fighters. One of the things I love about you guys is the discipline that you have, because it is harder to cut weight and lose weight and get in great shape for women, but you guys kind of prove you can do it. And I know that I'm not trying to give a hard time to women that are housewives or that are working in offices or executives, because it is harder for them. They're not athletes, but the shape that women get in your sport, even these women that have babies and then have a six-pack like 6 months later, it's really amazing. It's just a great thing. You guys are such great role models. I know you do work with kids and like that. And what does it feel like to be in a position kind of where people are looking up to you? And do you have more focus on kids, or do you like to be working with women more, or both, or what?
So yes, I do a lot of work with kids. I teach, I help coach and everything. And before, at least before COVID hit, I would hold self-defense seminars for autistic kids and teens.
Nice.
Because all my stuff is from the autism spectrum, and I didn't have role models growing up who were autistic.
Right.
So I basically promised to myself that I want to be the person I wanted when I was like growing up.
I love that.
So that you know what, I can sleep well at the end of the day.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that's awesome. That's an awesome thing also, because I think you may be the first fighter that had was autistic and that's fighting, and that's an inspirational thing. Do you find that that there really is anything that you feel is tougher for you? I mean, obviously it's got to be an unusual circumstance, but the way you fight, it just, you don't look any different in your fighting skills, or look or sound any different visually than anyone else. Has it made it any tougher for you to train, or overcoming that? Was it a really hard hurdle?
Yeah, I have a bit of sensory issues, and I have to kind of throw a little bit of things in the way to kind of like buffer it all. So I take copious amounts of CBD, so I don't get migraines and being overwhelmed and everything, and don't jump at every loud thing that happens, like if someone's slamming a weight or something on the floor. So I do that. I do a lot of meditation. But backstage, I mean, I've done this for so long. Like, yeah, the nerves come at me, but I know what I do. I know what the job is out there. I mean, what am I going to do? Just run out the venue and say, the hell with this?
Right.
No. I get to hit somebody and not get in trouble for it.
I love it.
I mean, come on.
Love it.
Like, win or lose, I get to do those two things in that order, and it's beautiful.
That is awesome. Did you ever have fear? I think, like, if some women watch this broadcast who are not fighters, I mean, 50 years ago, there'd probably be one woman out of a million that would be having the courage to be a fighter. It's different now. Now there's a lot of women that fight. But I still think if you had 100 women in an office or in a grocery store and asked 100 of them how many of you would be willing to go fight in a cage, probably it'd be 1 or 0. So it's an unusual thing. What gave you the courage to be kind of one of the few women that would be willing to go into an octagon, a cage, and fight? Because even though it's more common than it used to be, it's still kind of a unique thing, I think, isn't it?
I think I've always come out of the womb a little fiery. I always caused a little bit of trouble for my poor mom. And I was just always trying to be in athletics, because when I was younger, I had like absolutely terrible motor skills. Like, I couldn't walk without tripping on my own 2 feet.
Oh, right.
I was in occupational therapy and physical therapy. So I was in the middle. Like, that's how now, as an adult, like 29 going on 30, I'm doing the most complex movements the human body can do, right? Or at least some of the most complex ones. So It's kind of a success story. But I got into this because I love fighting video games, I love anime, and I love Power Rangers. So that was like the trifecta for me growing up.
Nice.
So, I'm watching Sailor Moon, I'm playing Tekken, I'm playing Street Fighter, I'm doing all this. So my reward every Friday would be going to the video store and like renting anime, because I was watching like 80s anime that was like, no one's ever heard of, because this was before everybody really jumped on to anime. It wasn't until Pokemon first dropped, I think, that everyone was like, oh man, anime. school. And I'm like, yo, I know what this is. I've known what this is.
Nice.
So one day I come downstairs because my dad also rented tapes, and I'm watching the iconic Paul Herrera and Gary Goodridge match.
Oh, yes. I remember that well, with Gary Goodrich in the black judo gi. Yep.
When the crucifix happened, I'm thinking, this is like 5-6 year old brain. I'm thinking of King from Tekken, where he does like this, how he does a takedown and just literally does ground and pound on you in the first game.
Nice.
I'm like, it's like all the stuff I love, but it's real life. And
Nice.
I just became a fan of it. You know, like I didn't think I would do it, but I grew up just watching it, enjoying it. Like I was saying, like my friend Roxanne Modafferi, when she fought at IFL, no one remembers IFL. It's sad, like
I do.
Elite XP,
Yep.
Lucy Rekic, like all, I loved it all. But then after high school ended, you know, because I was starting to get kind of in athletics, like I was powerlifting in high school. So I'm like, okay, high school's over. There's not much weight room access anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If I just go to college, I'll go insane. And I found a local gym when I still lived in Philadelphia. I was close by, and I'm like, all right, you know what? This would be cool. And I could be that educated fan, not the guy in the bar who's screaming, twist and dick or whatever.
Right.
You know, I wanted to be that person. But time is funny because just going to class, just loving it, the educated turned into my first grappling tournament, which turned my first Muay Thai fights, which I loved, which then in turn led me to meeting my buddy and mentor Roxanne Modafferi, and then doing MMA, and then it's a wrap from here, you know.
Absolutely. It's awesome. And you're a really good fighter. And I love that you said Misha Tate took you to lunch. Did she impart any wisdom to you years ago on that lunch she took you to?
She was just saying to basically do what's best in my career. And sometimes you have, you know, if it hurts, it's still okay as long as you're doing what needs to be done for yourself, because she's just basically telling me this game is pretty tricky. And I'm starting to see that as I come along. It's kind of sad because sometimes you go in this game with like a fresh face, like I'm going to do it all. And then kind of start seeing the inner, you know, gears of the machine twist. It's like, oh, so that's how it goes.
Right.
And that's that curveball.
Absolutely.
So I think I've definitely been heating, especially nowadays. And yeah, it's great. I was just happy to see her after my fight was over. We got to chat a little bit and catch up. She was really proud of how I've grown since the last time we, you know, trained and everything together, which was 2016.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, time does fly. Now, Roxanne is your training partner and your friend. She is such a balanced fighter. I mean, she's got the hands, she's got the wrestling, she's got the jiu-jitsu. I remember fighting her, not fighting her, what am I saying? I remember watching her fight. That'd be funny if an old guy fought Roxanne Modafferi. No, I remember watching her fight in the really early days where she beat Jennifer Howe, who was a great fighter there.
Wow.
Say that again?
That was the one in IFL I saw her, when she beat Jennifer Howe. I think that was the one. So I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing, and she just, you know, was such a tough fighter. And I know as a bantamweight, she was always undersized. And I know in the middle of her career, she was kind of thrown to the wolves against a lot of girls that were cutting down to make bantamweight. And so I was so glad when flyweight came, and she just has been an amazing fighter even at 39. What has she told you, or what training has she been able to provide to you that you feel is most valuable? Because she can do it all, but do you feel the striking is the most you've learned from her, the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling, or is it kind of all of it?
It's more in the grappling section. I feel I learn a lot from Roxanne. Like I would like to think I'm really good at my cage defense because of her.
Nice.
Like me how to shift off and everything, and how to reach shot if I'm pinned against the fence, like how to attack and all that, how to even hold somebody on the fence and get takedowns. Like she's really good at that, and I think she's also sharpened up my takedown defense. I mean, I really hope she did, because like when I first met her, like she would throw me around like a tennis ball all the way.
Right, like a rag doll, like they say, right?
I'm here going like, what the hell, just falling off, you know?
Right.
So But it's still fun because, like, I was better at striking when we first met. So, in striking and, and grappling, it's like, I'm here for striking, she's here, and then we just kind of build each other up. And it was the same kind of relationship kind of in that way for grappling. Like, she's up here, I'm down here, so I'm figuring out how to beat her, and then she figures something out, and then we just keep growing together, and it's great. She's like the big sister I always wanted, because I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and I'm happy with that role, but it feels nice to have somebody who has been in the game for a while and knows what's going on and is actively looking out for you and trying to guide you down the right path and help you avoid the pitfalls that they have fallen on,
Without a
that's
doubt.
what the coach is about. You get to the top, you reach back and help somebody else.
Without a doubt, and that's really huge, and it's really cool that you have her there, and then you're helping kids and everything, and so it's good karma. It's like creating positive cycles in life instead of vicious cycles where negative things happen is so important, especially nowadays. I'm really glad you have her. We have only a few minutes left with you, Serena, so in that time I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and opinions on things, but before I do, I definitely want to thank your manager, Sean Rockwell at Prime Elite Management. They are awesome. I know you like them, and they're doing a good job for you, huh?
Absolutely. Like, before I got with Prime Elite, I was not getting many fights. I was fighting once or twice a year if I was lucky. And ever since I got with Prime Elite Management, like, I had 3 fights this year. This is beautiful. Who knows? Maybe in the winter it might be fight number 4.
Awesome.
But I'm excited, and I'm really, and he takes care of me. Like, he sent me pictures. Like, he sent me like full printed pictures, like I can hang on my wall of like my, stuff, moments of my fights and stuff. It's really cool.
I like that. That's awesome. He seems like a great guy. So, opinion coming up Saturday, 1 division below yours, flyweight championship, the Bullet, Valentina Shevchenko. Many people consider her the GOAT of female fighting. Lauren Murphy coming up, trying to do something. Big underdog. Can you tell me how you see that fight playing out, even more than just a prediction? But maybe give me a minute of what do you think we're going to see when that bell rings?
Oh, man, this is going to be so hard for me because Lauren has always been dope to me. Like, I remember one time, because my love of Godzilla is apparently well known everywhere.
Nice.
He messaged me saying, hey, what size shirt are you? I'm like, Laura Murphy just randomly messaged me asking what shirt size I am. Okay, I'm a small. Cool. And he's like, all right, cool. I got your gym's address. Let's send you something. I'm like, oh boy, what is it? She sends me a shirt that has Godzilla on it and a gi, and it says Guard Jitsu. And I'm just like in love with that.
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah, so Lauren's cool. I want her to win already by default, but let's get into the nitty-gritty specifics.
Yes.
Lauren has never been finished in her entire MMA career.
Mm-hmm.
Her only losses are decisions. Choke, knocked out or whatever. So Lauren's durable. Like, I honestly think she's retained her bantamweight strength. But Valentina is so darn technical. It's like, it makes me mad because I'm so jealous. But that's so cool. I think Lauren will have to overpower Valentina. So Valentina, I think, will just counter-strike because she's light on her feet and she knows angles. But I see this going to the floor. I really do. I don't think Valentina will want to eat power from Lauren. Valentina can throw and would just play it safe on the ground where there might be an advantage. But I think this is close. I think if it ends anywhere, I think it would end into the 4th round.
Yeah, late in the fight. Yeah, my producer has gone on record as picking Lauren Murphy to win this fight, and he's known to be bold with his picks. But I couldn't go as far as that. I didn't make my official pick yet, but I said I believe in Lauren, but I can't officially pick her as of now. But I give him a lot of credit for doing that. But she is tough. If she can end up in the top position, especially in like half guard or like full mount or side control, right, that could be really dangerous for Valentina. And it'd be interesting to see how Valentina reacts, because Lauren, I think, is a black belt, and I don't think Valentina is, although I know her jiu-jitsu is better than it used to be. But it'd be interesting to see what she's going to do, because she would not want to turn her back to Lauren Murphy for sure. But if she's getting smashed by elbows, then it's going to be really interesting. Well, Serena DeJesus, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Let us know when you have a fight signed. We'll get you back on, but you're a super nice person, and you are an inspirational person. Absolutely amazing that you're, working with the kids with autism and totally putting that, behind you and dealing with those challenges and just killing it. So you're like a superstar in my eyes, and I can't wait to see your career continue with great success.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You take care, and we will definitely talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Have a great night.
You too. Take care, Serena. Good night. And that was Serena DeJesus, super cool woman. I like that she gave us the answer, because I didn't know if autism would present any interesting physical issues to her fighting. And she
well,
said
the sensory overload, it makes sense, and there's a lot of interesting aspects that may actually even make other than the sensory overload, it might be the other direction, helping her out in the cage. I don't know. I have never experienced it, I've never experienced it. So
right. But it seems like she's just got a great attitude, and she loves the fire. Like Justin Gaethje, she loves to be in the fire, and
Absolutely.
She's a good athlete, and it's just super cool, and that she's helping kids, and I would love to see her do really, really well. And I think she's got the talent. Hell, Roxanne Modafferi is a training partner.
She's on my great list. She's coming along with the same idea of Lauren Murphy taking this potentially. I thank you for that. I needed a little backup today.
It's true, absolutely.
Colin's on me. Unfortunately, nobody's attacking me on Facebook or YouTube. But no. You guys are all amazing. Colin, thank you for another amazing episode. Before we go, though, I want to ask all of you out there that are tuned in on social media, hit up our social media on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. You can even follow us on YouTube. We don't have too much active right now, but we will in the near future. And if you're on social media, hit up Fight TV. It's FITE.tv. If you're on Fight TV, head on over to our social media at MMA Power Hour.
Absolutely. And I want to thank Fred Palmer also for saying awesome interview. Really appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Dr. Adam Roorda, then, was that you tapping out for the night? Tapping. There we go. That's the tap. And I want to thank Dr. Adam Roorda for all you do, man. I really appreciate you. We are going to have a few weeks off. We've got some things, scheduling problems. Dr. Adam Roorda is going to be doing some amazing stuff out of town and taking care of some business and seeing family. And so I am going to try to go on a Thursday. We won't have this great set and anything, but I'm going to be trying to go live on not on Thursdays, on Tuesdays, doing something during this time over the next few weeks. I appreciate that. We'll jump that on the social media, maybe on the Power Hour, and but thank you so much to our two guests, Taylor Guardado and Serena DeJesus. Taylor, great luck against Kayla Harrison. I think she can do it. Serena can do anything, and I can't wait to see her next fight on a great 2-fight win streak over there at Syndicate MMA. Thank you all for jumping in and supporting us. Really appreciate it. Spread the love in a positive way, I like to say. And finally, we're not quite at 8 o'clock, so I can talk for a few seconds there. Go ahead and spread the love in a positive way. Let people that haven't heard from you hear from you with a text or a message. Sometimes we have so many friends and acquaintances that it becomes unmanageable, and it's a blessing, but it's sometimes tough when you realize there's some people that you care about that you haven't been able to talk to for weeks or months. And maybe sometimes sit down and dedicate an hour to reaching out to people like that. Let people know you have their back. It can make a huge difference. All right, so take good care of your friends, relatives, kids, parents, and your pets. They give you unconditional love, and they deserve the best. All right, for the entire team at the MMA Power Hour, this is Colin Crandall, and for the next few weeks, I'm tapping out.